He cuts you off in traffic. She keeps yakking on her cell phone during the movie. He takes the last donut. Well, who is this guy? He's a jerk. Jerks have been around a long time. From Assyrian King Sennacherib in 700 BC, who liked to blind people, to Attila, Adolf, and Stalin, a tree and linked across space and time by sheer jerkhood and affinity for the unique mustache. But jerk is not a clinical term. The Dark Triad is a set of traits that make someone not a nice person. The first of these is narcissism. In Greek mythology, Narcissus was a hunter who was renowned of his beauty, and he was so proud of it that when he saw his own reflection, he fell in love and couldn't leave, so he starved to death. Clinically, narcissism implies a lack of empathy and an inflated sense of self-importance. Some things that might help you to identify if you're a narcissist. Answer some of these questions. Some of them are pro-narcissist, some of them are anti-narcissist. Are you a narcissist? Second trait, machiavellianism. Try saying that, wow. Niccolo Machiavelli, author of The Prince, is famous for advice like, a wise ruler ought to never keep faith when doing so would be against his own interests. He is the champion of doing what works for you no matter what your mother might have said. We have a test to determine whether you're Machiavellian. Mach 4 tries to answer whether you're the kind of person who would do anything to make it to the top. Have you ever flattered an important person? Did you do something like that? Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy killed at least 30 people that we know of. He's a psychopath. You don't have to be a mass murderer to show elements of psychopathy, however. Clinically, psychopathy means the inability to form human attachment, an abnormal lack of empathy, all while appearing outwardly normal. Think Dexter. Are you a psychopath? Maybe. How do you score on these? Have some element of psychopathy in your life? Are you always not rude to other people? Studies show that people, if you meet people who have all three of these traits, they are quite likely to be jerks. You don't believe me? It's not my opinion, it's science. Look at all these papers. You'd think that you probably wouldn't want to hang out with people like that in your day-to-day life, right? Wrong! Of course you want to hang out with them. All of these people display high levels of all of those traits. But they are not only not shunned, they are admired. Such counterintuitive results lead scientists to wonder the big question, is being a jerk adaptive? This actually means, does being a jerk make it more likely that you will reproduce and pass on your genes? A study in 2009 called The Dark Triad, Facilitating a Short-Term Mating Strategy in Men, suggests that indeed it can be. Often, at least, nice guys really do finish last, or at least later than the jerks. Of course, this has led to the rise of game blogs, essentially how-to guides on how to be a jerk in order to exploit this strategy and meet women. But it's not just about the sex. Higher reproductive fitness is a big deal, but what else? What other kind of people score high on these tests? Entrepreneurs! Entrepreneurs, like lots of people out here, probably show these traits. They're narcissistic. They're Machiavellian. They may even be a little bit psychopathic. Remember that first thing on psychopathy? I find it easy to manipulate people. How depressed are you now? Do you have to be a jerk to succeed? Well, fortunately, the answer is no. Being a jerk, psychologists sometimes call it agentic, I'll explain that after the presentation, is not the only strategy for success. It's just one. There are other strategies, a contrasting strategy called the pro-social strategy. Call it, I don't know, maybe Picard versus Kirk. One gets ahead by negotiation, by working with other people, and by having an oh-so-sexy bald head. The other gets ahead by stepping over and on anyone who gets in his way so that he can kiss the girl with the green skin. Studies show that both strategies work, albeit in slightly different ways. In addition, the jerk strategy doesn't always work. It works mainly by impulsiveness. At its worst, impulsiveness actually leads to control issues. This lack of control often can land the jerk in the principal's office, or maybe even in jail. But when it does work, when it's just the right amount of impulsiveness, the jerk avoids the paralysis of analysis and moves first, a trait that is both important in the marketplace and also in the club. So it appears that jerks will always be with us because, quite frankly, being a jerk actually works. But if you don't like it, well, Don't reward the jerks in your life, and try to change the order of things.